Hi, I'm Rose Armstrong here at Wounded Women Rising. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. Each Wednesday, we talk about something that impacts a woman's rediscovery of herself after abuse. Today, I'd like to talk about something that can be surprisingly difficult after the abusive relationship: asking for help. Not because it isn't available, but because somewhere along the way, many women come to believe they should be able to handle everything on their own. I know what that feels like. Years ago, when I left my first marriage, I found myself in a situation where I needed help more than I had ever needed it before. I was frightened, overwhelmed, and I had two young children depending on me. I also had no idea what my next step was going to be. What I discovered during that time was not everyone knows how to help. Not everyone understands. Not everyone believes what happened. After a while, I began to reach a conclusion that many women reach. I have to figure this out by myself. Maybe you've had moments like that too. Maybe you've asked for help and been disappointed. Maybe you've been judged, dismissed, or given advice that didn't fit your situation. Maybe you've become so used to carrying everything yourself that asking for help no longer feels like an option. If that's true, I want you to know that you're not alone. Today, I'd like to explore a different possibility. What if choosing support could change the direction of your life? What if asking for help is not a sign of weakness, but one of the most courageous choices you can make? Let's talk about that. One of the reasons asking for help can feel so difficult after an abusive relationship is because many women have spent years learning that it's not safe to do so. Abuse often happens in isolation. Sometimes that isolation is obvious. A woman may be discouraged from seeing her family and friends. She may be criticized whenever she spends time with other people. She may be questioned about where she goes, who she talks to, and what she says. Other times, the isolation is much more subtle. She may be told no one else understands her. She may be told that other people are against the relationship. She may be made to feel guilty for talking about what happens at home. Over time, many women begin keeping more and more to themselves, not because they want to, but because it's safer, less complicated, easier. There can also be threats. Threats about what will happen if she leaves. Threats about the children, about finances, and threats about what other people will think. And when those threats are repeated often enough, they can begin to influence the choices she makes. There's another reason many women stop asking for help. Sometimes they do, and the response they receive is not what they had hoped for. They're dismissed, not believed, and told they're overreacting. They may be encouraged to be patient, try harder, keep the peace. For a woman who's gathered the courage to speak about what's happening, those responses can be incredibly painful. After a while, many women decide it's easier not to say anything at all. They keep their thoughts to themselves and carry their concerns alone. Little by little, silence becomes the norm. Even after the relationship ends, many women continue to keep things to themselves. They stop talking about what happened. They stop asking for the help they need. They stop reaching out. And before long, they begin to believe that their only option is to figure everything out for themselves. If this sounds familiar, you should know you're not alone. Many women have had the same experience. Many women have reached the same conclusion. They learned to rely on themselves because at one time, that felt like the safest option available. The question now is whether that choice is helping you create the life you want today. At this point, I think it's important to talk about the difference between independence and isolation because they're not the same thing. Many women I speak with are incredibly independent. They have learned how to solve problems, take care of responsibilities, and make difficult decisions. They kept moving forward even when life was hard. Those are strengths. There is nothing wrong with being independent. In fact, independence can be a beautiful thing. The ability to think for yourself, make your own decisions, trust your judgment, and create a life that reflects what matters to you. Those are all signs of healthy independence. Isolation is different. Isolation says, I have to do it all myself. No one will understand. I shouldn't need help. It's better if I keep this to myself. You see, independence allows support, isolation rejects it. Independent people can ask questions, seek advice, learn from others, accept encouragement, and still make their own choices. Isolation closes the door. It narrows your options, it limits your perspective, and it leaves a woman believing she must carry the full load alone. For many women, the challenge is not becoming more independent. They've already proven they can survive difficult circumstances. The challenge is learning that independence and support can exist together. You can be strong and still ask for help. You can be capable and still need support. You can make your own decisions and still allow others to walk beside you. Those things are not opposites, they are partners. And that raises an interesting question. If support does not take away my independence, then what role does it actually play in my life? When a woman hears the words ask for help, she often imagines giving something up her independence, her control, and her ability to make her own decisions. But healthy support does not take those things away. It strengthens our independence, our control, and our ability to make decisions. Sometimes support helps us see options we could not see on our own. It helps us make sense of a situation that is overwhelming. It helps us recognize strengths we forgot we possessed. And it reminds us that we do not have to carry every challenge by ourselves. Help does not take away responsibility for our lives. It expands what is possible. And that is why one person can make such a difference. And it's not because they solve all your problems, walk your path for you, or because they rescue you. It's because they help you see possibilities you may not be able to see on your own. When I left my first marriage, one friend opened her home to my children and me while they were away on holidays. She did not solve my situation. She did not make decisions for me, and she did not tell me what my future should look like. What she gave me was something I desperately needed: time, space, a chance to breathe, a chance to think, and a chance to begin figuring out my next step. Looking back, I can see that her gift was much bigger than a place to stay. She reminded me that I was not completely alone. That mattered. Because when a woman believes she is completely alone, her world becomes very small. The options she can see become smaller. The possibilities she can imagine become smaller. And the future can begin to feel very limited. Sometimes all it takes is one person who sees something in you that you cannot see for yourself. A friend, a family member, a counselor, a coach, a support group, a shelter worker. One person who listens, understands, and believes you. Most women do not need someone to take over their lives. They need someone willing to walk beside them for a while. That is often enough to help her take the next step. After everything we've talked about today, you may be wondering what this means for you. Perhaps you've recognized yourself in some of these experiences, or you've realized that there are places in your life where silence has become the norm. Perhaps you have begun to question whether carrying the full load alone is serving you as well as it once did. And that brings us to an important choice. And this is not a choice anyone else can make for you. You get to choose. You can continue carrying the full load alone, or you can allow others to walk beside you. Neither choice is without consequences. When we keep everything to ourselves, we have access only to our own experiences, our own ideas, and our own perspective. The world can feel smaller, the challenges feel heavier, and the solutions harder to see. Support can expand your options. It introduces new ideas, new perspectives, resources, and possibilities. It gives us access to knowledge, experience, and encouragement that we don't have on our own. Help does not guarantee an easier life, but it can make the path clearer. And sometimes clarity is exactly what we need to take that next step. The important thing to remember is that accepting support does not mean you're giving up responsibility for your life. You're still the one making the decisions. You are still the one choosing your direction. You are still the one taking the steps. Support simply means you no longer have to figure everything out by yourself. Whether you choose to accept support is entirely up to you. That choice belongs to you. It always has. There's an old saying that it takes a village to raise a child. I believe it also takes a village to help a woman rebuild her life after abuse. Life was never meant to be lived in isolation. We learn from one another. We support one another. We encourage one another. And we help one another see possibilities. I hope you take a lot away from today's conversation, but it's my prayer that you remember you do not have to carry the full load alone. You may choose to, but you don't have to. Simply recognizing the difference brings a tremendous amount of relief. Relief that there may be possibilities you have not yet considered. When we stop believing we must do everything alone, we often begin to see opportunities, resources, and people that were there all along. Sometimes that's enough to help us take the next step. If today's conversation has helped you recognize places in your life where you've been carrying the full load alone, I invite you to book a Freedom to Be You call. It's simply a private conversation between the two of us. We will explore where you are, where you would like to be, and what your next step might look like. There's a link in the description. You do not have to figure everything out by yourself. Let's take a breath as we close today's talk. May you recognize the reasons you learned to carry so much on your own and meet yourself with compassion. May you discover that independence and support can walk hand in hand. May you find people who listen, understand, and remind you that you are not alone. May you trust yourself to make the choices that best serve the life you are creating. And may you step forward with renewed hope, knowing there are possibilities ahead that you may not yet see. With warmth for your heart and strength for your inner world, that's enough for today. See you next week.